Hey YouTube, it's Matt with Olympus Reptiles, and today we're going to talk to you about some of the things we do. We talked a lot about when we come back from a show, how was this show, blah, 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 blah. We're going to tell you how we prepare for a show, what we look for, how we go about the process of selecting a show, and all of that. When we go to Patreon, which, by the way, like, subscribe, and check out the Patreon, we're going to talk more about how we financially look at a show. We're not going to get into the finances on YouTube of a show, but there we're going to talk about how we financially decide if a show is worthwhile and some of the things we kind of look at. We've already talked in Patreon about the profit margins that we look for, right? So we're going to talk about how we price the show prior to going to understand what the cost is going to be and some of the things we look at there. Now, I want to tell you guys, sometimes you just miss crap, right? And, you know, as we were telling you what to film, I was checking a few things for locks because that's why, you know, right now there's a lot of breeding going on, so we don't pull those guys out. And sure enough, man, one of them got me. So I can also tell you how bad is a ball python bite today. Let me stress, this is probably the first bite I've taken in 6 or 8 months. I don't get bit very often, you know. And this one I could tell it was wanting to bite, and I tried to just give it a little tap with the pin was in my hand, and it went when I did and got me. Son of a bitch. So I threw the pin in the cage of the mat. So how bad is it? Well, this is a bad ball python bite in a lot of ways because it got me right in the hangnail there, right? And I know I'm flipping you off. That's not really my goal. But there's one part of the bite. So right there. There's a little scratch. So that was where that mouth part of the mouth went. And here is 2 good holes from there. That's just a streak of blood. How much bleeding does it do? Well, it's still bleeding. And, you know, we blot a little blood off and whatnot. So what do you do when you get bit? Well, I mean, you know, this is not the cleanest room in the world. It's full of litter and snake shit. And so, you know, you kind of wipe all that off, try to get it cleaned off as best you can. The big worry on getting bit by a snake is not the snake bite itself. If you're going to have any major problems, only really 2 things you got to worry about with getting bitten by a ball python. One is there a piece broken off in my hand or my skin. I've had that happen before in my thumb. I had a piece of a tooth got busted off in there. I had to cut it out about 2 weeks later when it started swelling up. Otherwise, it's just infection. So just take you some good old alcohol or any kind of disinfectant you want, you know, and just put it on there, right? I don't really care what you use. Use it liberally. Is it going to burn? Yeah, it's going to burn. This actually hurts more than the bite, but you know what? Just fucking find your big boy pants and just do it, right? Ain't that bad? Well, it might be a bite, not just a little bit of blood. Am I actually bleeding there? No, it's just some blood. So just make sure and get that all nice and disinfected. If you're going to keep working then without gloves on, which I don't like to wear gloves, I will do that again before I leave here because I'm going to get other crap in that. It's going to be an open little wound for a day and I don't really want to get infection. So that's all you really got to do is just make sure and clean up after yourself and you're fine. On to today's topic. So don't mind me bleeding everywhere. So how do we prepare for a show? Well, the first thing we're going to look at is, you know, is time, right? I've got a crew that consists of me, Kurt, and Caleb. That's 3 people. You know, and if I go to a show, right, I want to make sure that all 3's schedule is able. There's a reason for that, okay? We'll do a lot of shows with just 2 of us. How do we get to 2 of us? Usually it's because somebody had some shit come up and couldn't make it. Well, then we still have 2 people we can still go. So, you know, I always try to have it where all 3 can say, yep, looks good to me. So that way I know even if I lose somebody, we're still good. So the first thing is sitting down and looking at times. Hey, man, are you good? 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 The other thing is vendors I trust, right? I tend to go to a lot of the same show vendors that I've been to before. The 2 I frequent the most, and there's other ones that are really good, is I frequent a lot of Show Me Reptile shows. So Mickey puts on a great product there. We go to a lot of those shows, and we also go to a lot of the cold-blooded exotics shows. So we do both of those frequently. When Manhattan had a show, we would go to it. It was from an entirely different vendor, but it was right in our backyard, and it was always really well managed. So like, things I'm used to. I like to go back to the same thing I'm used to. I know what to expect. I know how we're going to be treated. I know kind of the situation, right? So that's always one thing I kind of look for. So places that you're familiar with. You know, now I've done things like Tinley before back in the day. You know, you probably don't remember it. We weren't known then, but I have done Tinley before. And that's a great experience too. I mean, so all those are good. And we've done Daytona Beach before. That was pretty awesome as well. You know, but there's some caveats to doing some of those bigger shows I'll get into in a minute. Well, we'll get into that kind of on the financial aspect we get into with Patreon. So, you know, I look for something close. The next thing I look at is, okay, if the show's on a Sunday, you know, and I got crew that probably doesn't want to take off work, you know, then I need to kind of get there and back in one day. Sometimes we're going to take off work. It's the nature of the beast. So like we frequently do Kansas City shows. I'm 2 hours from Kansas City, y'all, so I can get up in the morning, we can have stuff ready to roll, pack that truck, go, we meet Kurt in Manhattan, and we're out the door. We're driving to Kansas City. Bang. We're there, set up, ready to roll, 5 or 10 minutes before VIP starts, and then we can pack up, do the auction, because if you go to one of Mickey's shows, there's always a charity auction for US Arc afterwards. Go to the auction, do whatever, grab us some good fucking barbecue if we had a good day, and roll home and be in my bed before 10 o'clock with everything taken care of. That's nice. Same with Lincoln, same with Omaha. You know, I can do Tulsa in a day. Tulsa's a little harder, right? Oklahoma City's a little bit harder to do in a day just because it's a little bit longer drive. We're getting that 5-6 hour drive now. So if I want to do Tulsa, then that crew needs to be ready to go on Saturday. What we'll do is we'll pack up, leave at a decent time, get where we're going on Saturday, crash Saturday night, get up Sunday morning, go set up for the show, and then roll home right after the show. Okay, that's how those go. We get home a little bit late. We're still going to make work on Monday morning. Probably not eating barbecue, probably eating some fast food, heart attack in a bag on the way home so we can get home at a decent time. So you're picking it somewhat based on your life and distance. If I wanted to only do 2-day shows, man, I got a day job. Kurt's got a day job. Caleb's got a day job. That's a lot to ask of those guys. My day job really doesn't give a shit when I'm there or not. So for me, cool. But those guys got to ask for time off. They got to get it approved. There's only so much time off they have. So to do that, it's like, hey, man, we're going to leave for this 2-day show that runs on Saturday and Sunday, right? That's in Denver. We're going to leave Friday, probably in the middle of the day. So you can work half a day on Friday, then we got to roll out because we got an 8-hour drive. You know, and then, oh, by the way, we're going to crash there Friday night. We're going to work all day Saturday. We're going to work all day Sunday. Believe it or not, we typically drive home directly after the show on Sunday when we do things like that. And that usually gets us home sometime around 3 in the morning. Most people don't want to live that life and go to work on that Monday. So usually they're taking a day or a day and a half or 2 days off work. That's a lot. It's a lot to ask. They got families. Well, Kurt has family that they want to spend that time with. They don't want to take vacation to go work. They want to take vacation to spend their time with their family. So, you know, we try to look at it like that when we pick. Now, how else do we know we're ready to go to a show? Well, we go through every baby. We keep a list, right? All those babies get weighed. We have to hit a certain weight, which for us is at least 80 grams, and they need to have eaten at least 3 times. Once they've done that, then I'm saying, okay, that baby's ready to go to a show. So we know how many babies we have. Almost at all times. I mean, we do a weigh-in about once a month or so. And then we're going to pick our show, and depending on the number of babies we have, tells me how many tables I need. When I do a show, I'm usually doing either 1 to 2 tables. I don't need 4 or 5 tables. I'm not taking that much stuff, y'all. I don't have that many display cases to run 4 or 5 tables. I've got 4 displays we'll typically run. 4 displays for me is a 2-table show. You've seen the setup, so I'm going to book those 2 tables. I'm going to do that way in advance. I'm not waiting until the last minute. If they tell me they're good, we're booking that stuff usually at least a month out, often 3 or 4 months out. So we know we'll have enough stuff to go. And then there we are, ready to roll. If I only have enough to fill 2 displays, I may only book 1 table. Sometimes you gotta like, okay, I got enough for 2 displays, but by the time we get there, I'm gonna have enough for 4, and go ahead and book 4. You gotta play that game a little bit. But you know, I'm looking at the number of babies. Each display is gonna hold anywhere from 15 to 12. The reason there's a discrepancy is we have 2 displays that are 5, 5, and 5, and we have 2 displays that are 2, 5, and 5, right? So for me to take my max, that is 30 plus 24, that's 54 babies is max. I can also deli cup about another 10 to 12 babies and still the show set up I want. So the most we're going to probably ever take to a show is 65 to 70 babies. That's kind of it. Top end, that's all I want to take. If I've got 150 that need to go, taking 75, right? That's kind of how that works. But sometimes we only have, what if I only have 20? Well, would I not do a show? No, I'd do a show for 20. I'm not doing a 2-day show I've got to drive overnight for and get 2 hotels for to take 20 snakes. Probably not doing that. But when I go hit up Kansas City, if I only had 20 snakes, yeah, I'll take the displays that do 24, figure out something to do with the other things on top, and I would do that, you know, because my overhead's low enough, it doesn't really matter. How do you price at a show? I think that's often something people wonder about. For me, I look at my animals. Some of them I just price off the top of my head. Okay, I ain't gonna lie. Some of it's just standard. This is what I price it at. This is what it is. You know. And then a lot of times too, I'll look at what Morph Market's doing. Morph Market, well, we don't sell a lot on there. We use it all the time as a pricing tool. It's a very, very good pricing tool. And now when I say as a pricing tool, let me stress this. You don't go on Morph Market or Fauna or whatever website you choose to use and go, okay, I've got this, I'll pick something they'd like. Banana clown pied, okay? And I'm going to look on Morph Market for banana clown pies. And I haven't done this, so I'm just picking numbers out of my ass. And oh, look, here's one that's 1,100. Here's one that's 900. Here's one that's, 1,000. Here's one that's 350. Well, I guess I better price mine at 350. Don't fucking do that. Don't do that. That's the dumbest thing in the world. So the lowest price does not always dictate what your price should be, right? If that was always the case, and pretty soon we'd be selling snakes for $1. So don't, just because there's this outlier out there, that does not mean that's a new market. That just means that guy wants to move that snake, or he's full of shit, one of the two. And there are times where I've done that, where I'm like, man, I've had the snake too long, I need to move it, and I will price it in a way that is super aggressive to move. The next time I have that snake, it'll be more expensive. It just will. It's just part of it. Maybe I've got too many of that. Maybe I want to move it. Maybe I'm going and looking and Kurt's yelling at me because we got too many babies. I'm like, man, we need to move volume. So sometimes what I have dictates my pricing as well. I may be on the lower end of the pricing spectrum if I've got some volume I need to move. And if I'm not as worried about volume, I may just kind of stick it right there. Other times too, you go to the show and you kind of walk around and look and you kind of get an idea if my price really high or my price really low. All of our stuff is written in chalk markers, similar to like this guy here. This is a purple one. Everything will be written in blue and pink. When we go to shows, we take extra markers. If I've got something, let's say I priced it at 500 and I go around the show and I realize there's 3 more of them that are 350 and I am way over the top on it, I may choose to change that to 350. It's a dynamic world, right? I may not. If I go and I've got one that's 500, this is another thing to think about. And that market value is 500, and that snake is worth 500. And there's a cat over there that's got one for 300, but he's only got one. That's the only 2 at the show. Fuck it, I'm leaving it at 500. Why? I'll let that dude sell his first for 300. That's fine. And then I'm going to get 5 out of mine. There's not so many of them that the price is there. When the price gets dictated by the markets, when you walk around that show, I got that snake for 500, and there's 7 others for 350. Okay, I'm too high. That's when that, and I may not be too high for the world. I'm too high for that day. I'm too high for there. And then I have to decide, do I lower that price to match that? Or do I leave it there and just hope that my quality overrules or my name overrules? Sometimes it happens. Or do I leave it there, know damn well that there's about an 80% chance I'm going to take that snake home with me, but the next show there's probably not 7 of them. You can do that too. So pricing is, it's a magical thing, right? It's not one size fits all. People want to know, well, this snake should be this. It's not how it works. It's just not how it works. Sometimes there's microeconomies where, like, maybe in Kansas City I'm only going to be able to get this for it, but if I went to Denver I could get this for it. But in Denver this snake's only getting this, where in Kansas City it's getting this. Just depends on who's there, what they're bringing, how much of it they have, and how well known they are. Like, I'm probably not going to go to a place like, say, Kansas City, and if I took some Sentinels, which I don't even have any Sentinels for sale right now because we're still working that project, and I price my Sentinels above my buddy Tim Simon there, and Tim Simon's where I got my Sentinel from, and it's the highest quality you're going to get. Why would I do that? He's going to kick my ass. I mean, he's just going to outsell me. Even if I'm priced lower than him, my one's going to go, he's still going to sell 5. If I price it the same, he's going to sell 5, I'll probably still sell that one. So you don't have to be the cheapest. You really don't have to be the cheapest. But you do need to kind of use those parameters to figure out your pricing. So Morph Market's great for that. Take a walk, it's great for that. All those things will help you figure out what your pricing should be on the table. When we set up our displays, we have talked about changing this up, so I almost kind of hate to tell you what we're doing because I'm not sure if it's the way I want to continue to do it in the future, but we are for now. We run purple and white, so every cage is different. It looks like a checkerboard, purple, white, purple, white, purple, white, right? That was done by design. Even if we do change up what we use, we'll probably still go purple, white. The reason for that is Nick could always still do it with black, white. I like to have a light and a dark. Reason I like to have a light and a dark is I think certain snakes will show better on the light and certain snakes will show better on the dark. So then it lets me pick where I think that snake should be to give it the best visual pop when I'm selling it. You know, to give it that contrast with the background of the colors. If I wanted to have one solid color, this is a mistake I think a lot of people make. Like, you know, you think Olympus Reptiles, so I want to do a solid color, I would do solid purple, right? I love purple. I'd be all about that. It would not do well at sales. Why? Because some things aren't going to contrast with that as well as it would other things. If I was going to go with a solid color, I would go with either a mirror. I think the mirrors displays people do that looks really good. I would go with just a pure white. Those tend to look pretty good. If you do a gloss black, I think that looks really good. Then if you want to get really crazy with it and you want to set yourself apart, I think the really bright colors that you're not going to find in your snakes tend to look really good. I'm talking like a really bright like orange, or like I've seen some lime green where you can put a lime green down and everything's going to look really high contrast on that. So if you want to do a solid color, you want it to be that color that's really going to contrast a light snake and a dark snake at the same time. You know, your oranges, your limes, your like neons almost, right? You could do neon fucking pink and it'd probably rock out pretty good. That's just kind of my personal opinion, because you want that snake to show. You don't want it to kind of blend in with that surrounding. So that's kind of my thought process on the show. How do we pick it? One, what weekends people available. That's first one. You got to make sure you're going to be there. Two, show pricing. Pricing is pretty standard across the board. I don't really get worried too much about how much a table costs. Most tables are going to run, you know, I know when you deal with Show Me Reptiles, there's a pretty big swing in table cost depending on the show. They do a really good job of saying, hey, if we're going to get this venue at this cost and we're going to get this at this cost, we're only going to charge this much for the table. You know, he knows what he needs to make in his business model. He's not going to try to gouge it. So there's places where I can get a table for 65, 70 bucks. Other times it may be $100. Just depends on where that location is and how much they've had to invest to get that show there, right? Cold-blooded exotics, I think, is right around that $100 mark every time per table, which is fine. That's no big deal whatsoever. That's what you should probably plan. Plan on your table running you $100. Just factor that in. So, you know, you got that. And then, two, how close is it? How much of a burden is it for me to go to that show? It's a burden to go to a 2-day show. I'm not going for fucking vacation. You know, I travel a lot for vacation. I know what vacation's like. I love to travel. To go for a 2-day show is a burden. Last 2-day show we went to was a Show Me show down in Louisiana. Kurt, did you have fun there? No, I had fun, but was it vacation fun? Fuck no. We literally got there, slept in a truck for 2 hours, set up, sold snakes, slept at a hotel that existed. It's about the best thing I could say for it. Overnight, went back and sold snakes because it was such a long drive. Went back to the hotel, crashed again, right? Packed up our shit and left. I'm not sure where the fun was. It's not like we're going out partying, pounding beers, hanging out, going to the beach, fucking off. That's not happening. You're there to work, right? You're there to make money. You're there to move your animals and move your product. I would be pissed if I took a crew and they showed up hungover on fucking Sunday. I'd be furious, right? If I showed up all hungover on Sunday, Kurt would probably be furious with me. Happened once in Denver. In our defense, we'd sold out of almost everything. We had like 5 left. It was one of our first shows we did celebrate that night. But for the most part, you're not going there to party, man. The best thing you're going to hope to get is a good meal and get to see some people you don't see very often. So don't pick your show based on the destination you want to be, with a few exceptions. I'll give you those exceptions in a minute. Pick your show based on where you think you can sell the best, make a good profit, get back home to do what you need to do. It's work. Think about it like work. Don't think about it like vacation. Exceptions to that, Tinley Park is an exception to that. You should go to Tinley sometime to go. Whether you're vendor or just go. Like, I think I've done that a couple times. It's great every time. Daytona Beach, Florida is another one. You know, yeah, Daytona, the show is right on the ocean. So you know what? It ain't no big deal to go work the show all day, right? Go pick up your food, sit on the beach, watch the ocean roll in, eat your dinner, maybe swim a little bit, go to the auction at the end of the night, which is a blast. It is like fun because they're going to be, yeah, and then get to the show the next day. I mean, there are times you get to have a little mini vacation in there, but trust me, I've also been to Daytona just to go to Daytona. going to Daytona just to go to Daytona is more fun than going to Daytona working half the time and being at the show half the time. But you can have a good time still when you do it there. So that's why I've heard the same about Arlington, Texas. And some of those larger NARBC shows, you can go to those just for a good time. If I took the crew to Daytona next year, I'm not saying we are, that is a show that we're going to go to, and I'm not even going to give a shit if we make a profit, right? That's the show we're going to go to because the year's been pretty good. I know, man, I'm going to spend this much driving. I'm going to spend this much on a place to stay, which is going to be ungodly. We're going to sell this many snakes that I may make a profit, I may not, but I would have made a hell of a lot more money selling them in Kansas City than I do in Daytona. Not even because the prices are different, but because my expenses are different. But we're going to do that more for the experience of doing it than we are because it's the best idea to make money. That being said, we're also in Kansas, right? If I lived in Florida, I would say the exact opposite. I'd be going to Daytona every time it's there. So there's kind of where you're at. Kurting, you can think of on shows and how we pick that if you want to add. I'll give you one more piece of advice on these shows. We have a box, big plastic bin, right? All my show shit is in there. That way I don't have to run around and try to find shit the day before. Things that are always in that box, always. Those blue and pink markers we talked about. Extra litter for the display cages, because invariably you're going to go there and somebody's going to have shit in one by the time you get to the show. So be prepared. Speaking of that, cleaner. To clean that, not just dip the litter out if you need to. Those three things are always in there. So paper towels, markers, cleaner. Snake bags, always in there. Zip ties, always in there, right? My lights, always in there. My tablecloth, always in there. All that stuff, plus there's other things I can't even think about. Hand sanitizer, bottle of this lives in there. It just stays in there. That way when it's time to go, I don't have to think, oh, do we get this? Do we get this? Do we get this? We would do that. We would invariably forget something every fucking time. The PayPal card reader in there, right? The only thing that doesn't live in there is a little bit of petty cash to make change. We do grab that as we go. But everything else is already there ready to go. So when we're ready to go to show, I can grab that box. My light's already on top of it. Everything just kind of goes to the truck. I grab the hand cart, put it in the truck, and all we have to do is the displays. It's really simple. Make your life simple, because if you're going to go to that one-day show that's going to be close enough for you to drive to make your life, easy, you're going to be leaving at, I'm trying to think, KC opens at what, 9 for VIP hour? That means we got to get to KC by about 8 is the plan. That way there's some built-in oh shit moments. That means we got to leave here by about 5:45, 5:30. Helps me go, pick up Kurt, get him in there, and drive clear to the wrong side of KC in Missouri to get to the Show Me Show. At 5:30 in the morning, my brain is not going to work like it's going to at 8. I will forget things. If I haven't pre-done that, forget about it. So pre-do everything so you can just grab it and go. With that though, before you grab that box and go the night before, check the box and make sure your stuff's in there. Make you a list that you keep in that box, especially when you first start doing this. These are the things I need. Go through, do I have this? Yep. 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 Cool. I'm ready. Because you don't want to get there. Oh, like extension cord. I just forgot that. There's a 100-foot extension cord in that box. There is, I think, at least one, if not two, power strips in that box. Those are the things that are there because I know I'm going to need them. So just make sure they're there, check them off. Cool. We're good. Got everything. Bang. You're out the door. It'll take you 5 minutes. It'll save you a lot of headache. Anything you want to add? All right, guys, we're going to get off here. We're going to start with the Patreon. We're going to cover the finances of picking the show there.